Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering video. Once again I've had a bit of a problem with an unboxing, so it's going to turn into a show and tell. So this is actually an Archenemy deck I've just picked up. I was down my local comic shop, that's Giant Robot Comics in Woodlawn, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and they had the Archenemy deck Trample Civilization Underfoot. I don't have any Archenemy stuff, and it looked pretty interesting. Again with this, I'm curious about how mana fixing works out on this and how the schemes in Archenemy interact with the deck. So in an Archenemy deck or an Archenemy pack, you basically get 60 cards, a 60 card deck, and the 20 scheme cards. You also get a couple of inserts. One just tells you how to play Magic, and the other one tells you how to play Archenemy, and has all the deck listings of the 4 decks in total that they actually make under the Archenemy banner. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through this deck and just show you the different components. So first up, we have down this side here, we've just got our straight mana base. That's our basic lands. There are 10 forests and 5 plains. Then with this deck, there's a number of elements within the deck that fix mana, fetch mana. So in addition to the basic lands, we have a number of cards here which are non-basic lands. So let's have a look through what we have in terms of non-basic lands. So this one here is Vitu Ghazi, the City Tree. You can tap it and add colourless to your mana pool, but for 2 colourless, a green and a white, you can tap it and add a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield. And one thing you'll notice with this deck is you can use it to generate sapling tokens. Then we've got Tranquil Thicket, which that enters the battlefield tapped. You tap it and add green to your mana pool. It also has cycling for green, so you can pay a green, discard the card, draw another card. Secluded Steep, which is another obviously non-basic land. Secluded Steep enters the battlefield tap, add white to your mana pool. It has cycling for white. Nantuko Monastery taps to add colourless to your mana pool, and it also has Threshold. So for a green and a white, Nantuko Monastery becomes a 4/4 green and white insect monk creature with first strike until end of turn. It's still a land. Activate this ability only if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Then we have Mosswalk Bridge, which has an ability on it called Hideaway. This land enters the battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. You can tap this to add green to your mana pool, and for 1 green you can tap it. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have a total power 10 or greater. So lots of interactions going on there. Llanowar Reborn enters the battlefield tapped. You tap it, add green to your mana pool. Has Graft 1, so this land enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may move a +1/+1 counter from this land onto it. And you'll see in a moment there's quite a lot of counters in this deck. And then we've got Croson Verge. Croson Verge enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add colourless to your mana pool. For 2 colourless, you can tap and sacrifice this card. Search your library for a forest card and a plains card and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So you've got fetch for basic lands. And then Kalani Garden enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a 0/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield. And this can also be tapped to add green to your mana pool. Then you've got Grey Pelt Refuge. Grey Pelt Refuge enters the battlefield tapped. When Grey Pelt Refuge enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it, add green or white to your mana pool. So those are the cards, the non-basic lands that fix various mana problems and also have other abilities. In addition to that, there are a number of cards which aren't lands, and these also can enable you to fix mana. This one, which is a creature spider, Pale Recluse, you can use for forest cycling and plain cycling. So for a cost of 2 colourless, you can discard the card and search your library for a forest or plains card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your library. You have a Maya Druid, so when this enters the battlefield you can use it to look for a forest card, and there's 2 of those. Sakura Tribe Elder, you can sack this, search your library for a basic land card, put it to the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So there's 2 of those. Croson Tusker has cycling, and when you cycle it you can search your library for a basic land card, and so on. And Fertilid has counters on it when it comes in 2+1/+1. You can play colourless and a green and remove a +1/+1 counter from it, and then search for a basic land card. So this can be played on a target player, so you can play it on yourself or somebody else. And there's 2 of those. So in there, some of those are creatures, obviously, in fact I think all of them are creatures, but also they have the additional ability to be able to fix mana problems by searching out land. Also there are a number of cards that basically produce mana and fix mana problems that way. So we've got Leaf Gilder, which you can tap to add green to your mana pool. Wall of Roots, which is a defender, and this uses a token system to generate mana. So you put a -0/-1 counter on Wall of Roots, and that generates green. You can activate this 1 each turn, but as you can see, as you generate mana on each turn, it's going to reduce your toughness, and there's 2 of those. So that's the creature cards that are going to allow you to generate mana. What else have we got here? Well, we've got some cards here which allow you to use counters. So this card in particular, Feral Hydra, which is a rare, enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and X is from the mana cost, you can see there. And for 3 you can put a +1/+1 counter on Feral Hydra. So there's some counter stuff. Forgotten Ancient. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient, another rare. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. Wickerbower Elder, there's 2 of those. It has a -1/-1 counter on it. And you can pay green, remove a -1/-1 counter from it, and destroy a target artifact or enchantment. Hunting Mower also uses counters, has an echo of 2 and a green in its ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its echo cost. When Hunting Mower enters the battlefield or is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature. So more counter shenanigans. So that plays around with counters in the deck. Then you've got other elements of the deck which do some interesting things in terms of adding +1/+1 to various things, basically pumping creatures. This one which is Silencia Guildmage. You can use it to put sapling creatures into play, but also you can use it at a cost of 3 and a white to give creatures you control +1/+1 until end of turn. Armadillo Cloak, which is an enchantment, you can use it to give a creature +2/+2 and trample, and it also has lifelink on it. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. Rancor, which will give enchanted creatures +2/+0 and trample. And also, when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you can return it to its owner's hand. Spider Umbra gets +1/+1 and has reach. And then Thelonite Hermit gives sapling creatures +1/+1. It also has Morph 3 green. You may cast this face down as a 2/2 for 3, turn it face up any time for its morph cost. When Thelonite Hermit is turned face up, put 4 1/1 green sapling creature tokens into the battlefield. So you're getting sapling generation, and it can give sapling creatures +1/+1. So you can see there's a sapling token element to this deck. There's also some legendary creatures in here, 3 of them. Verdoth the Ancient, which is a rare. It also has a kicker cost attached to it. So for 4 and a green, you get a 4/7, but you can kick it and put 1/1 green sapling creature tokens into play. It also gives sapling creatures and other tree folk creatures +1/+1. Milimo Maro Sorcerer is 4 and 3 green. It has trample. It's a rare. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And then we've got Kamaha Fist of Crosa, another legendary creature, rare, 4/2 green for a 4/3. And for 1 green, target land becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn, still a land. But also for 2 colourless 3 green, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. Then a number of cards which destroy things or exile things. You can use this Plummet to destroy a target creature with flying. You've got Gleeful Sabotage, which destroys a target artifact or enchantment, and it also has Conspire. As you cast a spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control to share a colour with it. When you do, copy it, and you may choose a new target for the copy. Fog prevents all damage that we dealt this turn. You've got a Path to Exile in here, so you can use this to exile a creature, and its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card, put that card into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. Notice with this card, not only can you exile an opponent's creature, but you can also exile your own. And then we have 2 Oblivion Rings, which we can use to exile a target non-land permanent, and when Oblivion Ring leaves the battlefield, that particular non-land permanent comes back into the battlefield. And then we've got a few other cards that just do various things here. So we've got this one, which is Harmonize, which allows you to draw 3 cards for 2 colourless, 2 green. This card here, which is called Wax and Wane. Target creatures get +2/+2 to end turn, or destroy target enchantment. We've got a Watch Wolf, which is a straight 3/3 for a green and a white. Heroes Reunion, an instant which you can use to give a target player 7 life. And Shinen of Life's Roar, which basically forces creatures that are able to block Shinen of Lice Raw to do so. It also has channel for 2 and 2 green, discard Sheen of Lice Raw. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. And then we have Primal Command, which is a rare 3 and 2 green. You can choose 2 on the list here. Target player gains 7 life, or put target non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library, or target player shuffles his or her library into his or her hand, or search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this card fixes a number of issues. And then finally over here we've actually got these schemes, I think they're called. So what happens here is you have 20 cards with this deck. These are your schemes. So if you play the Archenemy, the idea is you play with this deck. The scheme cards complement it. You play a scheme per turn, and your opponents, because basically it's you against a group of people, they each have their own deck, and they have to respond obviously to you like a normal game of Magic, but also you've got the advantage of these scheme cards which change the nature of the game. So you have to have 20 scheme cards when you're playing Archenemy, or at least 20. In this particular deck, 10 of them are single, there's only one of them, and there are the other 10, they're basically 2-ofs there. And you can only have 2 copies of any scheme in your scheme pile. So using this one as the example, this is what's called an ongoing scheme. Nature shields its own. An ongoing scheme remains face up until it's abandoned. Whenever a creature attacks and isn't blocked, if you're the defending creature, put a 0/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield blocking that creature. When you become the defending player for 4 or more attacking creatures, abandon this scheme at end of combat. So you can see how this might interact with this particular deck. Then we have this scheme, Nature Demands an Offering. When you set this scheme in motion, target opponent chooses a creature you don't control and puts it on top of its owner's library. Then repeats this process for an artifact, an enchantment and a land. Then the owner of each permanent chosen this way shuffles his or her library. And so all of these cards have obviously a scheme on them, which when you play them comes into effect. And these are large cards, very much like the cards in, or the same size as the cards in Commander and also Plane Chase as well. Okay, that's a look at the Archenemy deck, Trample Civilization Underfoot, along with the corresponding scheme cards. Thanks once again for watching.